Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. We keep rolling on. Can't thank Enterprise Bank enough for their involvement with this show. Coming to you live from the KCAV studios, Kansas City Audio Visual. They can handle the little guy like me and set up this beautiful studio, which I've used for not just the podcast now, but for Fox Sports Kansas City and interviews and baseball coverage right from here in the, we'll call it the Goldberg family studios, aka the spare bedroom. Huge jump up from working in the walk-in closet for a few months, which was good until it wasn't. A little bit of a tight space. Anyway, it is Tuesday. Back to work for baseball later today. The Royals were off yesterday, but they are suddenly a red-hot team, so that is fun if you're interested in that. As far as this podcast goes, 101 episodes in the books. And I just looked, I'm so excited about this. One of my fears, with baseball starting was, can I keep up this pace? And can I continue to find the guests? And I just looked yesterday, and I am booked for every day the rest of this month, except for I think I have one opening left on August 24th, which it may actually be filled at this point with some feelers that my team and I have out there. So anyway, really excited about that, to continue to bring you really a unique set of guests and interesting stories in our community and beyond. And that's the case today for my guests. So I want to bring in right now Rob Sanderson, at the moment a member of the Lenexa Police Department, which, I guess I'd have you on. We could talk about the Lenexa Police Department, but of course I could have police officers on from just about every department here in town. What's the catch? The catch is something called SWEL, SWEL. Before we get into that, Rob, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Joel. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you on. You and I met a few weeks ago. Mutual friend Rob Hughes, who's morning news for the ABC affiliate here in town, Channel 9, and he, like yourself, veterans who have served this country, and I know that you have an incredible involvement with a topic that I've had the chance to study a little bit over the years, just because of the exposure that I have to so many different groups, and that is first responders, veterans, dealing with PTSD, trauma, and you have found a way, which seems a little bit weird to me initially, based on your location in life right now in a suburb of Kansas City. It involves surfing, which tells me that you did not grow up in Kansas.
Yeah, Joel, I was a Navy brat, so I grew up all over the coast. I've lived in Florida, Hawaii, California, Virginia, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and then now Kansas City.
So you've been all over the place, and we'll get to what SWEL is able to do with surfing and getting on the water. I told you I've never surfed before in my life, but it would seem to me like a very peaceful and very productive use of your time, and one that I know, I've got relatives that surf that would be happy if they could surf 8 days a week if that was possible. So first off, when did you take up surfing?
So, early on, I was, in the water as a kid. I can remember when I lived out in LA, going out to Carlsbad area, Huntington Beach, and, getting into some waves. And then I really got serious about it when I was in college down in Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So the Gulf waves.
Oh man, you mentioned Huntington Beach, and I missed that because we stay pretty close to there when the Royals play the Angels. We're not traveling this year, and the Royals aren't traveling anywhere outside of the Central Division. But I hear Huntington Beach, and I start thinking about the water and the great scene down there. But let's talk a little bit about SWEL and what you're able to do to with so many different people, and why this is so effective. But I've heard so often about holistic treatments and yoga and different activities, and I know that PTSD for veterans, first responders that have dealt with or are dealing with so much, need that help. So why is surfing something that has been able to unlock an element of peace, I guess?
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head when you said, what's the why? And, just to throw a few statistics out at you, veteran suicide is 1.5 times the average population. And then if you look at 2019 statistics for police officers, there are 228 police suicides in 2019 and 147 line of duty deaths, meaning killed line of duty. However, only 72 of those 147 were actually like assaults, gunfire, being run over by a car, or killed by a bad guy. So law enforcement is actually 3 times more likely to commit suicide than they are to actually die in the line of duty from an assault. So, surfing is just one of those, I guess, relief valves to kind of decompress, reinvigorate, and kind of disconnect from some of those cumulative or even acute traumas that somebody might experience in a career. And for me, surfing, and I think what I've found for others too, is when you're out in the water, out in the lineup, whether it's crowded or not, it's peaceful, it's serene, kind of how you described. And the key with being out there is you can't bring your radio. You can't bring your gun, aside from a few sharks, and nobody's trying to hurt you. You don't have to look over your shoulder. So a lot of that hypervigilance that people in these communities experience kind of melts away. So being out there and being able to solely focus on the task at hand is important. And I think kind of a novelty to people in the Midwest is that geographical separation. So we're making these guided surf trips all the way to the coast. So, maybe some of those home stressors are quite a distance away to where they might be able to digest some of that, home stress as well.
Well, I can only imagine too for some of the people that you'll bring on these trips. I mean, maybe they've never, I don't know if they've ever been to the beach or the ocean, maybe never been surfing before. So it's got to be, in some ways, a once in a lifetime experience. I mean, I know I wouldn't forget anything like that. So how do the trips work? I think you got one coming up, I believe you told me too. What's the process like? How does everything go down?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is try to identify somebody in need. We actually have a trip this Friday. We're taking a group from the Overland Park Police Department out to Seal Beach, California, which is right in between Long Beach and Huntington Beach. And these 3 officers were very close to Mike Mosier, the Overland Park police officer that was killed in the line of duty. One of them is his best friend, and the other 2 were also very close to him. So, right off the bat, me and the other SWEL surf coaches said, hey, this is a group, this is our mission. They spent a lot of time with their FOP, the department, trying to help heal, and then also with Officer Mosier's family and making sure that they're taken care of. We want to give them the opportunity to take care of themselves, maybe dump a little bit out of their own bucket.
So you bring them out there, and I should back up for a moment too. I mean, that's, I think we all, certainly in Kansas City, heard that tragic news recently in Overland Park. And so, I think that oftentimes when we hear about that, and we're always stunned by it, I think it was, I can't remember what the numbers were, but I mean, this is not a regular occurrence in a place like that. And
right.
So it always shocks a community, but maybe we don't always think about what it can do to colleagues or to partners or to friends. You think, I know for me personally, my first thought always goes to, the spouse, the kids, the parents, the families. Understandably, that's where it should go.
Yeah.
And then, the community will grieve. And you always hear it's such a loss for the force, and you hear, other police forces and firefighters joining the cause. But I can only imagine, and maybe you've seen this too, having served the country in the Navy, but the lasting effect on those officers that were every day, maybe in that car or with that person, and how, and I'm not sure what you've seen, how often those people can carry that with them for days, weeks, months, if not years.
Well, here's the thing, Joel, about trauma is if you don't deal with it appropriately, it doesn't go anywhere. And I kind of equate it through my own experience and talking with others to almost like piling up to the point to where once you reach that place in your life to where you're full, something's got to give. And, I've got a working theory, and it's based on nothing other than my personal observations, is once certain officers get to that point, sometimes the bad outcome happens, whether that is, acting irrational, substance abuse, suicide, or the bad use of force, bad decision making. And I've seen it before to where officers have had their fill and they just kind of become numb, and it's almost like they're a shell and they aren't able to really take in anymore. So the ability to go out there and dump your bucket, kind of reinvigorate, and a term that my friends at Warhorse for Veterans use quite a bit is that tactical longevity. So this day and age, we really need to start being more purposeful in how we go about our careers and make sure that we're taking care of one another, because I think everybody, well, just about everybody would agree that we want to maintain and keep the good cops, the good servicemen and women going.
Well, and you and I talked about this a little bit off camera and in a previous phone call too, and I won't put you on the spot to talk about the state of policing in this country at this point. I think we all know that there's a lot of bad stuff that is going on out there, but it's not representative of everyone. And so, we've heard, and rightfully so, in my opinion, so much attention on what happened with George Floyd and other awful moments, murders, incidents in this country. And I know that for a guy like you, and your time is winding down quickly here on the police force, and so you're getting ready for a pivot yourself. But I know that in itself, watching your profession be stained by the action of certain people, and it's not just one. You know that, and I know that, has to hurt, because there's so many of you that go to work every single day with a lot of pride and belief in police work. And so I think it's interesting that you have this outlet here, and not that that's going to solve all the problems, right?
Right.
But a reminder of maybe the help that people in those roles often need and don't get.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head. It's a difficult time right now to be in law enforcement. I think anybody coming into this profession has got a heavy burden, because it's going to be a long road to recovery as a profession, and reconciling some of these wrongs. How that's done, I don't know. It's a difficult thing to be here in a Kansas City suburb trying to do the best you can and serve, and then somebody across the country does something that's just crazy in such a brutal way, and it affects me and how people see me and my colleagues. So I don't know the answer to what the solution might be, but I do know that taking care of the people that are doing what's right and serving honorably is the way that we're going to continue to promote better policing. I don't think that anybody in law enforcement would disagree that there needs to be some systemic changes and moving forward in a positive way and working with the community. We just need to make sure that we maintain those good people in those positions so that we can do that effectively and bring the country back together.
Well said. I completely agree with that. And so, you and SWEL, you're doing your part. There are a lot of other groups that do too. I want to ask about some of the reactions and what you see from the people that you bring on these trips in a moment. But let me go back to your background a little bit, serving the country. Was it Navy? Or I think you mentioned growing up in a Navy household, at least.
Yeah, so my dad was a Navy pilot for 20 years. I did go through Marine Corps officer candidate school, but I chose law enforcement. So I've been a police officer for 18 years now.
Okay, so you saw all of that. I want to make sure that I got that right, and I had it a little bit wrong. But you saw all of that. I mean, you grew up in a household like that, and I'm just constantly reminded with so many of the different people that I talk to about the wear and tear on just families, and what they're carrying, again, back to that trauma. So you bring someone on this trip, you get them out on the water. It's obviously your happy place. I mean, you grew up on the water surfing, and now you get a chance to share that passion with them. So I want to kind of visit both ends of this. First and foremost, what are some of the reactions that you get as these men and women get on the water?
It was funny because this thing kind of started selfishly where I was teaching people how to surf, because the only thing worse than not being able to go surfing to me is being able to go surfing but not having anybody to go with. So I started bringing people out with me and teaching them. And I think I finally kind of had my aha moment when I brought the SWEL coach Tyler out there for the first time. We were at Seal Beach, and watching him paddle out. He's a former Army Ranger, still active in the Guard, and also a police officer. And just kind of seeing the elation of him riding his first wave, a lot of that stress of the military and police just kind of melt away, and really see him without all of those layers and armor on.
Can you physically see the relief come over them?
You really can if you're looking for it. At first, especially because it's kind of a new skill, you see a lot of anxiety. But once they get out there and maybe make it out to the lineup and battle through the inside sections, get out there, you can kind of see the release. And then once they catch that wave, that elation is also a fun thing to look for. So yeah, absolutely.
And then what about on your end to be able to share? I mean, I hadn't even thought about that. Hey, yeah. I want to get out on the water and hang out with somebody and have somebody to share this experience with and not be alone. And so now you look at, how productive that is, obviously, in helping others. But how about the gratification in being able to share that experience, to be able to provide that experience and know that you can make a difference like that has got to be really, really gratifying and make that surfing experience that much more meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You hit it on the head again. I would be lying if I didn't tell you I got something out of this too. Not only do I get to go surfing, but watching other people, grow. There was Dr. Crawford did a study on Operation Surf out in California. Basically, this program, Operation Surf, takes veterans that have been wounded, PTSD, out and just teaches them how to surf. Well, he did a study, and he found that the improvement of one's self-efficacy. So if you look at something like a mountain, for example, and go, I don't think I could ever climb that, or I could definitely climb that. That is kind of a gauge of your self-efficacy, ability to complete something. He found that the improvement of somebody's self-efficacy is far better in treating PTSD symptoms than traditional therapy might be for these communities with the veterans. So, being able to kind of hand them their own key to decompression and reinvigoration is awesome.
I want to share the Facebook page, and you can get information about SWEL here. So I'd encourage everybody to check them out and see what they're doing. Really cool stuff on there. So this trip, I want to get a feel for how this all works. So that you got this upcoming trip on Friday, obviously be a very memorable one for everyone involved, and some great relief. Obviously after the challenges and tragedy in Overland Park. So how does that work? What you fly out to California on Friday? What's the itinerary?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of coaches out there on the West Coast. My buddy Reggie and Adam, they're going to pick us up. We already got a VRBO, a 2-story, beautiful beach house with a rooftop deck reserved. We're taking care of flight. We're taking care of room and board. Each of them got a per diem, so it's going to cost nothing more than their time to come out there. Saturday, we're going to try to blow it out, get out there and really teach them. We've been paddling around, Shawnee Mission Park a little bit here and there, trying to at least teach them how to paddle a board and sit on one. So that'll be the big day Saturday. And then hopefully get in a beach cleanup as well, do a little civil service while they're out there, and make sure we leave the place a little bit nicer we found it. And then I think we're also planning on doing a paddle out, which is kind of a surfer tradition for Mike Mosier to kind of pay our respects to those that have fallen.
So is that something, Rob, that you usually do? Is a moment like that, or is that unique to this situation? Because I've got to imagine that the emotion, and I know you haven't done this one yet, has got to be maybe indescribable.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a little bit unique to that to this situation. I I hope that maybe these guys find a little bit of relief. Sometimes we tend to be more guarded at home, and maybe we don't have that opportunity to kind of let things go. But in the end, the goal is just to get them out there, get them in the water, and have some fun.
So where is this all going with Swell? And I know that you'll be focusing on a career change personally for yourself as you're about to wrap up with the Lenexa Police Department, and so I'm very I'm interested to see where you end up. And you and I talked about that a little bit, but I know the Swell part will stay. So what are next steps? Where do you want this to go? How do you want it to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to continue to, make trips and have these opportunities. It'd be nice to continue to grow our surf coaching community. You know, I love to surf, but I don't always need to be the one to take guys out. So we've got, three or four now, but it'd be great to build that network and have some mentorship and, obviously help with fundraising and getting all these things taken care of. So growing, here in the Midwest and maybe even branching out and having a couple of stations on the East Coast, West Coast would be awesome.
How many of these trips have you done so far?
Informally, 5 or 6.
Okay.
Formally, this will be the second.
Okay. And you mentioned fundraising, sponsorship. I would imagine that is going to be extremely critical going forward too. And I've known this, and you certainly know this. The support in our community, I think this is true everywhere, for um, veterans and for those that serve our communities. It's when you have a good cause like this, people do want to contribute. And there are a million, I mean, that's the challenge, right, for all of us. There are a million
Right.
causes out there, and, people can't donate to every single one of them. But I know personally for me, when it involves veterans, first responders, it always grabs my heart. And I think that's true for most people. So how can people get involved with Swell? What type of opportunities are there?
Yeah, we have various, fundraisers events throughout the year. If you can visit us, Facebook, the Swell, it's THESWEL, only one L, or you can go to our website, theswell.org. There's a donate button. I also encourage you to go on there and check out some of our gear. Reggie designed our logos, hats, T-shirts, things like that. 100% of the proceeds from any purchase go right into the program. We don't take a dime out of it for the surf coaches. So that would probably be the best way, and just connect with us there.
I want to show, let's go over to the website, and I've been promoting the Facebook page, but here's a little look. Surf waves, enjoy life, reinvigorating our heroes through surf missions, and you even get to bring a dog with you, perhaps on the trip. But when I see this, oh, look at this, we got a nice little promo here.
Yeah.
For your appearance. I like it. I appreciate it. But you know what I see when I look at these pictures on the website? I see happy faces, and I know that's part of the goal. When they come home from this trip, I know this isn't a long-term solution, right? It's not as simple as, hey, get on the water, everything goes away for good.
Right.
I would imagine that at the minimum, it is a break, a relief from just the stresses, the stress of trauma. But is there a way to, when they get home, then leverage this or to utilize this? Is it any type of stepping stone beyond just a weekend of relief? I can only imagine that some friendships are built out of this, some camaraderie that comes with it, maybe some support group. But what's sort of the after effect?
Yeah, I think the hope is that they learn, through physical exertion, through, community, that, you can feel better. And really, sometimes they don't realize how filled up or numb they are until they can dump some of that out. So, knowing, hey, it's okay to say, you know what, I need a little break. I need to go for a walk. I need to go mountain biking. I need to go paddleboarding, whatever. I mean, there's so many different options here in the Midwest beyond obviously making a surf trip. But, just being an advocate for others that may be experiencing that level of cumulative stress, and then they can see it and maybe help the next guy out and say, hey, why don't you go the Warhorse for Veterans, or go talk to Rob and see if you can go on a surf trip, or why don't we just go for a walk? I was listening to one of your previous podcasts, and you get it, Joel. You said you're on a walk just to clear your head. Well, this is just kind of a supersized version of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Look, we all need that. I mean, I, whether it's the water, whether it's going out for that walk, whether it's, that meditation app. I mean, I know personally for me, it's like, hey, slow down for a minute and, exhale. And so I think we all have those pressures, especially right now, during this pandemic. And, you talked about it too, Rob, that the pressure that law enforcement is under because of so much of what has happened, that has been exposed. Now you add in COVID, and I remember I was listening to I'm going to get off topic here, but I was listening to a podcast a while back over the winter, and I heard some cops talking about just the scary moment, wearing gloves, but the scary moment if somebody tries to get you with a needle. And, this cop was talking about that moment of having to go to the hospital and not knowing what he'd been infected with. And so there are everyday stresses that I would think COVID has just made even worse. Right. And so, again, getting back to this trauma, that there may, I would think, Rob, be a lot of people carrying around trauma right now that don't even know that they have it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I was a police officer in Gulfport, Mississippi when Hurricane Katrina rolled through, and as you know, wiped that whole region out pretty much. And it wasn't for 8 years later when I was given a presentation to my shift about Hurricane Katrina that I broke down and realized that I had been carrying around this baggage for 8 years. So, I think, like you said, the effects of COVID, the social unrest is going to be having an impact on law enforcement communities and first responders, not only the police, but the nurses, the doctors, the medics, the firefighters for a long time. I can't even imagine what it's like to be an ER nurse or doctor right now and just watching people day in and day out dying with no family around them because they're not allowed to be there. And that's just one of those things that is going to affect our society and those that serve for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice comment coming in here from my friend Kiana, who says, Rob, you give me hope in our policing world. Keep making impact. Surfing sounds so much fun. I think by the time this show's over, I'm going to have Kiana on her first surfboard, her first Harley, you name it. But we've had so many talks on this show about racial injustice, and it's worth pointing out that this isn't like either you are for racial injustice or you're a cop. As you mentioned before, there are so many people in law enforcement that have done good, will continue to do good, and want to do good. And so I just want to point that out, and because there's so much negative in the world, and I'll continue to not focus on. I'm an optimistic. I'm a positive guy, but try to be at least. But there has been so much negative, and it's scary, everything that's going on in this world. And so I think by the way, we all probably could stand to get on a surfboard and learn to do that and get that opportunity. One day maybe I'll try it. I think it'd be a disaster actually, because I'd have no idea what I was doing.
It'll be fun. We'll bring Kiana to make sure that she's a witness too. So
yeah, well, she's young. She's 25. She can handle it. I'm getting too old for all this anyway. But all right. So final thought as we wrap things up here. Do you, at this point, as you're getting ready for your 72 hours from taking this trip, I'm sure those guys have a mixture of excitement and nerves. I mean, this is something that they've been preparing to do, and you're not getting on you're not getting on Shawnee Mission Lake here. You're getting on the Pacific Ocean, and it's a little bit different. So,
it's Shark Week.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, you mentioned that before. I meant to call you on that a little bit. Like, no radios, nothing. I mean, maybe just a couple of sharp, like no big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean they're the locals, so you just try to stay out of their way.
You know what this reminds me of though is I remember having a discussion once with Mike Moustakis, the former Royal, and yeah, he grew up in Southern California, and he just would talk about how tornadoes to this day scare the living hell out of him. But an earthquake, he's like, I mean, my house. He's like, my house was condemned when I was in high school because of an earthquake. I just whatever. I don't even think twice about it. So I guess like if you grow up on the ocean and on the water, it's just sharks. But come to the Midwest and suddenly it's, oh my God, it's a tornado.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could equate it to baseball. Like, I would never stand in and try to hit like 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I was watching that young guy. Was it Stompman?
Stomach, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God! Like, I would never stand it, but to these baseball players, it's no big deal because they do it every day. So I guess it would be similar to that.
Yeah, I guess I get it. I mean, people ask if I get nervous going on TV, and I said, "You get nervous going to your job? Maybe there's a big moment, but you don't get nerves to walk into the office and go into a conference room to have a meeting. So, it's what we're comfortable with. It's what our settings are. So, my last question was just going to be, what's your excitement level on a week where you're getting ready to take someone out?
I mean, through the roof. It's three opportunities to really showcase what the SWEL program's about, and hopefully help some people, and in turn, help the community. So it's me doing my little part, and us as SWEL doing our little part to maybe make this world just slightly better.
Mhm. Well, SWEL and Rob will be taking out three members of the Overland Park Police Department who, dealt with the loss of a colleague and a fellow officer. And so, I want to wish you and all of them a happy, fun, safe weekend, and I know that it'll be a meaningful one and a productive one, and that's what you guys are doing. Two, I want to wish you the best of luck with Swell, and keep me up to date on developments. You know how to reach me. And three, congratulations on retirement and good luck on whatever that next chapter is. I won't ask you to tell me what that next chapter is because I know you're trying to figure it out. But I know it'll be exciting, whatever it is. So best of luck with all of that, Rob, and just keep up the great work. Let me push this out there one more time, just so that people know where to look. Facebook.com, the Swell, or I think it was the swell.org to get
Yes.
more information on that. And the last reminder, people can get involved from a donation or whatever it is way by going to Facebook and finding out more information.
Absolutely. We are a registered 501c3, so all donations are tax deductible.
All right. Well, good deal. It's been a lot of fun, Rob, and you and I just getting a chance to meet. I know that we'll continue this discussion offline for sure, but keep up the great work, making a difference, and have the best time this weekend. Stay away from the Sharks, okay?
Thanks, Joel. I appreciate all you do, and I'm a huge fan, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rob. And great to visit with Rob Sanderson, and really awesome discussion. I love groups like that are making an impact and helping so many others that we often don't know are struggling on a daily basis. Put yourself in those shoes and understand the impact that you can make. It's very meaningful. It's going to do it for another episode of Rounding the Bases Live, coming to you from the KCAV Studios, Kansas City Audio Visual. They can handle the largest of needs, any size office. Shoot, they'll even do scoreboards, you name it. So check them out at kcav.com. And a huge thanks, as always, every day to my friends and partners over at Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you. Got a really cool and amazing guest tomorrow. She's out of, I believe, the Nashville area, and a really, really cool and unique story that I want to share with you, and a life-changing experience and career change. So I'll just tease it that way and say, hope to see you then. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and thanks for watching Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.